This is The Download from Sounds Profitable, your daily source for the essential news in the business of podcasting, brought to you by Spreaker from iHeart. I'm Gavin Gaddis, in for Tom Webster. Here's what you need to know for today, Monday, February 12th. First up, from the media leader, Acast expects short-term impact on listens from Apple update. The interim end-of-year financial report from Acast shows the company experienced an organic growth of 7% last quarter. According to their official release, gross margin for the quarter was 24%, but this number is due in part to the iOS 17 update that changed auto-download behavior in Apple Podcasts. In response, they have made a revaluation of podcast contracts valued at negative $7.2 million. While the update has a small negative impact in the short term, CEO Ross Adams said in a previous earnings call that the update's long-term impact will bolster the health of the download as a metric, benefiting podcasting as a whole. Up next, from Ad Exchanger, this year's Super Bowl is all about reaching Gen Z. The classic Super Bowl demographic of people only watching for the ads might be hitting a generational divide. A report from Ad Taxi found a higher percentage of respondents were anticipating watching the actual game, with ad-interested respondents only making up 25%, in contrast to 34% last year. It is worth noting this year's game had several extra incentives for game interest over ads, including Taylor Swift and Paramount's Nickelodeon simulcast that featured live animated SpongeBob characters as commentators. The biggest uphill battle for Super Bowl ads, however, is Gen Z's lack of interest in traditional advertising. For a podcast perspective, we went to Gen Z Media's CEO and co-founder, Ben Strauss, who had this to say, quote, "What we've seen is that Gen Zers respond to advertising that in some fashion speaks to them directly," end quote. Strauss says podcast advertising is especially effective with Gen Z due to the medium's emphasis on intimacy and authenticity, qualities Gen Z actively seeks. Up next, from Semaphore, Slate delivers best year. According to Slate spokesperson Katie Rayford, 2023 was the most profitable year in the country's 27-year history, with revenue growing 28% year over year. A good portion of the success is attributed to Slate focusing on their podcast offerings and website. Political Gabfest, a political chat podcast started back in 2005, remains Slate's most downloaded show and biggest driver for their Slate Plus premium subscription service. Podcasting now makes up 50% of the company's advertising revenue. And finally, from Adweek, Perfection Thwarting Progress, response to IAB Tech Lab's missive on Google's privacy sandbox. A new 106-page analysis from the IAB Tech Lab suggests Google's replacement for cookies needs a little more time in the oven. The report, 6 months in the making, has caused friction with some corners of advertising as being too focused on finding problems with Privacy Sandbox, though the discovered issues themselves are largely agreed to be problems in need of solutions. Issues including Google's attribution reporting API that will require more data than before in the pre-Sandbox years to achieve precise reporting. The analysis is open for public comment until March 22nd. A Google spokesperson has said the Tech Lab report contains dozens of errors and instances of incomplete information. Be sure to check out all the links to every article mentioned right in your podcast listening app or at soundsprofitable.com, where you can also subscribe to the newsletter version. The Download is written and produced by Brian Barletta, myself, and Tom Webster. For Sounds Profitable, I'm Gavin Gaddis. Download us tomorrow.